Before we get started with this episode of Let's Get Surety, we want to thank our sponsor, Old Republic Surety, for sponsoring not only this episode of Let's Get Surety, but also NASBP's virtual seminars for the third year in a row. For more information about Old Republic Surety, visit www.orsurety.com. Now, let's get started with the show.
You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Shamapande. Welcome to this episode of Let's Get Surety. Today I've got with me my co-host, Mark McCallum. Hey Mark.
Hey Kat, always great to be with you.
It is always great to have you on with me. I'm excited about our topic today. We've got our third episode in our series, talking Lean into Leadership, talking surety with the 515. And today we're going to be talking about how to navigate the road ahead in the surety industry as we kind of envision a post-pandemic world. So to do that, we've got two 515 members with us here today. We've got Jase Hamilton. He's a risk advisor and surety department manager at Cavignac and Associates. Hey, Jase, thanks for being on.
Thanks, Kat. Thanks for having me.
We also have Mike Lischer. He's a VP, Director of Surety at IMA Financial Group Incorporated. Thanks for being on, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Kat.
Hey, so before we dive into this topic, Jase, do you want to kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself and Cavignac Associates?
Sure. Cavignac is a boutique firm out on the West Coast, out here in San Diego. We do about 90% contract surety, maybe 10% on the commercial side. As an agency, we do about $15 million in revenue, and a portion of that is the surety department. As a department, we have about 6 individuals, 3 brokers, and 3 administrative staff. I started my career at an insurance company of the West as a contract underwriter, and then about 9 years ago, jumped over to the brokerage side. I've been here ever since.
Great. Mike, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and about IMA?
Yeah. So I've been at IMA 10 and a half years now. Before that, I spent 6 years as a surety underwriter at CNA. I'm probably one of the few people that went looking for a surety career. I was an intern for my parents' agency or my family's agency back in Iowa, and was like, "What are these surety bonds?" And was told about it, and seemed pretty interesting at the time. Don't regret, that decision at all. It's been a wonderful 16 years so far. IMA is headquartered in Denver and Wichita. We're a top 20 brokerage company in the U.S., and we've got offices pretty much across the U.S. now with our partnership entities. And just here in Denver, we've got 9 surety people, including myself, and handle surety across the U.S.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Well, I mean, in the surety industry, we're such a relationship-driven business, and there's so much face-to-face interaction. But throughout the pandemic, I know that's changed a lot for everyone. How have you guys seen that changing? Do you think that's going to change the way you do business in the future once, we come out of the other side of this pandemic?
I'll just take this real quick. Yes and no. It is still very much a relationship business, and face-to-face meetings are paramount. There are some meetings that, by happenstance, now can be done very quickly and easily through a Teams or Zoom meeting. It's probably beneficial for everybody. You can coordinate a home office, you can coordinate clients, you can coordinate producers, whatnot, and do it very quickly if you need to get something done. I handle some larger clients that have multiple sureties on them, and trying to coordinate 6 different home office people and their schedules to get to Denver is always interesting. But to coordinate an hour to get them on a Zoom meeting is much easier. So it's one side, there's benefits, and the other side, it's some status quo will maintain.
Yeah, I'd agree with Mike. I think there's definitely 2 sides. I think there'll be a hybrid approach likely going forward. There's a lot more efficiency to set up a virtual meeting, but I do believe the face-to-face meetings bring a little bit more value. from a broker side. I also think from the underwriter side, and working with contractors, I think there's a lot more value there. I have a handful of clients that don't want to do virtual meetings, and growing through the pandemic and learning all these different platforms of virtual meetings, there was a learning curve there, and I think it caused some frustrations. And our firm, and I think Mike's too, is this level of some unique ability and flexibility to still have meetings through the last 12 to 18 months. And we've thrived being able to do that, because as you know, there's been restrictions on potentially other brokerages and surety companies to have those face-to-face meetings. So we've excelled and had definitely seen some value in increasing the face-to-face meetings over the virtual.
Well, certainly, I can see where that would really help your efficiency with existing clients. But with the pandemic and then coming out of it, how has that played out with you looking for new clients or new business? And what are you doing now differently than what you used to do? How about Mike? What are your thoughts on that?
I looked at it as one way. We're partners with our clients, and they never stopped working. They went to the job site, they went to the office. At least here, in a lot of times in Denver, where I'm, it's more prevalent for me. And so we met them where they were at. If precautions were needed, we took them. If they were more hesitant, we didn't meet. We kind of left it in their court, on meeting. But for prospecting, change and crisis create opportunities, and you've got to be out front to be able to grab that and take it to the next level. In March, April, and May, it was a dark time for everybody, and sureties were, there's some knee-jerk reactions potentially that were out there, and concerns about clients that were not really realized, but they needed help, and we needed to be out there to assist them, and potentially that was opportunities for everybody. So.
Great.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I think from a prospecting side of things, the dynamics definitely changed. What we experienced during COVID and the inability to maybe have those association events or trade associations to go to, or other networking events to develop those prospects, had been canceled, at least out here on the West Coast in California. So for us, we were leaning a lot, and me personally, on referral-based prospecting, getting warm leads from clients, getting warm leads from some of the other professionals, the CPAs, the attorneys, the bankers, where the person would be comfortable having a face-to-face meeting with you without meeting you at an event. That's really we found an angle and more fruitful venture for us than cold calling. Because yes, I think if somebody's going to move their business to you, they're going to want to meet you first. So we had to be a little bit fluid with our approach.
Right. Well, Jase, does that mean that also, did you increase your social media presence as a result of the pandemic?
Yeah, as an agency, we've kind of really moved into a more aggressive social media presence, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, or other social platforms. For prospecting, sharing material, white papers, and resources through those platforms. To be honest, the feedback on that, hasn't been great. Still looking more towards just direct emails when I'm trying to share some information. But I do think there's a platform there. It's just really the focus, obviously, on the prospect or the contractors. Are they using the platform? Do they see value in it? And I think there's a mixed level of adoption. So I don't think you get a widespread of visibility through the platforms as much right now, but obviously I think that's increasing and will continue to increase over the years.
Right. Is that the same experience that you've had, Mike, as well?
Yeah, we implemented a pretty heavy, digital strategy at the onset, and I mean, it was fantastic. The amount of information that IMA could generate on benefits, on comp, and insurance things, and we contributed with some surety information as well. mean, I felt like I was getting bombarded a little bit, and it wasn't even, I was just, I wasn't even the intended recipient. So, a lot of clients, existing clients appreciated the information, but I think you had to be very targeted with some of the information on prospects. You couldn't just blast them; it was too much. But if you found something very unique, says, "Hey, this would apply to you," thought you might find of interest, there was usually some good feedback, and that was pre, during, and post pandemic that would always apply. So.
Well, that's great. Well, I know you mentioned obviously technology being very important and mastering different platforms and so forth. And that it gave you the gain of greater efficiency in some areas. What other kinds of technology do you think really going to come to the fore once the pandemic is done and over with? And Jase, why don't you let me know your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll start this, even though Mike's the chair of the ANC, but I'll go ahead and run with it. I think some of I'll leave you some a little bit, Mike, too, but I think some of the initiatives, and we have various going forward, but for me personally, and I think a lot of brokers, is really the adoption of e-bonding and moving forward with that initiative. Universally having different owners and obligees accepting that. Out here in California, we have a handful of obligees that will accept e-bonding. It really increases the efficiency from the execution of the bonding and acceptance of the bonding. But I think pushing forward that initiative to continue to have more owners on board will definitely be something that I think as an association we should continue to strive for, because it's one of the biggest issues, in my opinion, is really pushing for that e-bonding solution.
Well, that sounds like a perfect segue to Mike as chair of the Automation Technology Committee.
Yeah.
I know they have a number of initiatives going as well.
Yes.
So what do you think,
I
Mike?
think that the whole concept of moving surety onto a digital platform, and however, is it digital bonding, power of attorneys, everything. It's the technology platforms are finally there to accelerate this thought that NASBP and a lot of the members, and maybe and SFA as well, have all thought about for years, and it's now at the forefront that it can happen. And a lot of great initiatives are happening, but really the ability to transact surety business on a paperless. I was explaining to somebody the other day that's new to the surety world, there with a client, and I said, issuing a bond is actually time consuming. It's like we have people that that print out 3 separate copies of performance and a payment bond, power of attorney, notary, piece, and then they don't let me do it, but I've had to do it before, and it's a fair amount of work just to issue one bond, and it's like, is there a way just to simplify this? And yes, there is. So digital bonding is going to be huge, and I have every confidence that it will be accepted, because I think the whole marketplace doesn't want to deal with paper on these things. So it's just, is there a way to get a bond digitally, electronically, and verify that it is valid and issued correctly? So I think there's huge room. The other outgrowth of the pandemic and technology has been like DocuSign or digital signature identity agreements. Thank you, I guess I should say. Trying to track down one signature is one thing, but trying to track down 20 signatures is an entirely different game. And it has to be done right, or you're redoing agreements. So it's, if everybody can get there, I know it's in the toddler stage maybe right now. Some companies are doing it, but that's been a huge improvement, just in terms of efficiency and embracing technology.
I want to touch on something Jase said a little bit earlier on the same subject. You said that owners, obligees, are thinking about this now. Do you think that the experience of the pandemic now provides an opportunity that perhaps we didn't have as an industry, where the beneficiaries, the recipients of those bonds may also then want to move in this direction?
Yeah, I think that, the pandemic definitely expedited the process. I think there's been a need for it, as Mike mentioned. I think some of these owners and obligees have noticed the efficiencies in it and the inefficiencies that hard copy, archaic, wet signature, sealed bonds cause. And they want to adopt it, but I think there's legal hurdles that they are running into. I think there's certain issues. So I think really, and I think, Mark, where you're kind of getting to on this is really the government relations side of things, is how do we get in front of them and convince them that moving to a more digital platform is to everybody's benefit. I think that's really what's going to spearhead the change, is combining ourselves in this initiative with government relations, and making sure the state, local, federal municipalities all understand the benefits, because there are numerous benefits and really no cons outside of just the push for change. And that's what I think is the biggest hurdle for people.
Well, to add on to that, I think, Mike, another thing that you brought up as part of the equation is that people don't really understand the mechanics of what we do as an industry. And that, I guess, I would think a lot of education might have to take place. Would you agree with that in terms of owners and others?
Yeah, I think that's correct. It's owners, obligees, they get their paper and they're like, I have my paper and this is good. Doesn't matter. It could be incorrectly issued, could be fraudulent. They don't do anything further with it. But I think, as you said, Mark, educating them, say there's a better way to receive this, and guaranteeing or providing some additional protection to you that you're not currently getting. And at that point, it really is education, saying, here's what we could provide in lieu of this that is in the benefits to you. So there is a lot of education that needs to go on. It's chicken or the egg thing right now. Is there a platform to deliver this product, or do you just say we will get this to you at some point, but embrace it when we have it? And I don't know if there's a right answer, but I think we're two different two parallel paths isn't bad right now either.
Right. Well, I think you guys hit on, I think what's one of the key things, at least from my perspective, is building that comfort level so people feel like they can move towards it. And a lot of times it seems that people don't even know why we have certain procedures in place. And if you can explain those procedures and explain how they're being met in this different environment, the digital environment, then that's going to build that comfort. Maybe, I think a lot of times we think about it just in the construction context, but certainly it's just as important on commercial surety. Have you experienced any of that, Mike?
Yes, we do a fair amount of commercial, and they will embrace, I think digital bonds a lot more easily. We recently engaged Propeller, a new disruptor in the insurance, bond industry. And one of the questions we had to them was, we're just the client's printing out paper bonds with no raised seal, no original signature. And they said, nobody's questioned us. And if need be, we can issue it original, but all the owners, all the obligees are accepting these types of bonds, and they're all, licensed and permits to some degree. So it's smaller dollars, but I think people are just looking at it and saying, this is a valid bond. We're going to accept it. And in other, more account-driven business, it depends on who the obligee is, but a digital, electronically issued bond has been acceptable for the most part.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I think Mike makes a good point there. Sorry, Mark, to jump in, but I think Mike makes a good point, and you mentioned it earlier. It's the education. I think there are a lot of obligees and owners that are just taking them for face value and not validating them. And that's another benefit of going through this process of digital bonding, is to validate those bonds in a secure environment that gives them the protection that they're assuming is there, But so I think that's an offering to these owners that can hopefully get them to push more forward into that digital environment.
Right. And you said in California, Jase, that already there are agencies that will accept some level of bonding in an electronic environment. Could you elaborate a little bit on those examples?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think in California there's probably 12 to 15, maybe more state governments and local cities and municipalities. Caltrans being a primary adopter out here, California Department of Transportation. They allow e-bonding. We utilize the product in Surety 2000, and it's all digitally done, digital numbers and issued digitally. It's a quick process. There's obviously a couple of extra steps that need to be done, both from a brokerage side, a surety side, and the contractor side to get registered. But once those pieces are in place, it's very efficient. It's a couple of clicks and the bond's in place. There's other cities that during COVID did adopt electronic acceptance of emailed bonds prior to bid, but then wanted the original subsequent to that. So we were kind of halfway there, but they still wanted those original copies, wet signature, sealed bonds after the bid was submitted. So there is a need for it. Owners understand that, whether it's to help during COVID because of open bids not happening, everything's more digital, or whether it's just to make it completely more efficient. For example, Caltrans up in Sacramento, there's people across the state that bid Caltrans opportunities. So somebody down here in San Diego, if they were taking hard copy bonds, would have to mail to Sacramento, get a runner to run it to the Caltrans office. So for them, it's a lot more efficient on the digital platform.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Mike, what about in Colorado? Are you seeing movement by agencies and others?
Yeah. CDOT, Colorado Department of Transportation, was an early adopter. And I just, as we're going through this, I wanted to follow up with them to see if they're still actually doing this. But because I kind of removed myself from that, the execution process. But one of my clients was the guinea pig on a final bond issuance through a DocuSign process. Where they sent us a link after, contracts were signed, and we completed the bond application not application, but the bonds, and added powers and signatures. And off they went. It worked. So it was very, very helpful. I wish more would embrace it. I don't know how many more have. But on the bid bond front, that's always problematic because you have a time constraint there. And a lot of agencies and public and private have just said, send us an electronic bid bond, but digitally signed, bond. And if you're low, we'll probably follow up to see the original, but we don't see it very often. So, getting a bid bond overnighted it, we can just send them, instead of that, we can just send a scan, and, they submit their bid or their proposal with a digital bid bond, and off they go. I think it's more beneficial for everybody.
But I imagine you would only want to do that if the procuring agency let you know that ahead of time.
Correct.
Right?
We asked the question, and it says, "Hey, is a digital bond okay?" They said, "That's great. We're submitting electronically anyway." So, the question is always asked, and I would say 90% of the time now it's no, we're submitting digitally, so a scanned copy is fine.
Right.
It's interesting. Go ahead, Jase.
I'm going to say, as an agency, we've changed some of our internal protocols just to, be more in line with that. Our request form, most agencies have a bond request form. We've added additional block there that says, is electronic copy accepted? And we've educated our clients on it, just like Mike said, making sure they're asking those questions. Because if we know up front that they're acceptable, it's much more efficient to do so. Of course, there are the on the side of caution approaches when we're not sure, we don't have the confirmation, so we will still do the hard copy. But that's really what I think the initiative will clean up is, who accepts it, who doesn't. So everybody's on the same page. So I can do a digital bond and know it's going to be accepted without having the concern of it being non-responsive because it wasn't an original copy.
Yeah.
That's great. It sounds like being proactive is paying off. So that's really great to hear. Kat, I know you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, it sounds like even though we're on the front end of really acceptance for e-bonding, that it's really going to transform the industry, an industry where, I mean, I've heard we still have to use typewriters sometimes. So, so it's going to make a really big difference in how we're able to do business.
I'm looking at a typewriter and a fax machine, and we're the only people in the entire office here that have that. And somebody made the joke the other day. It's like we should show that to the interns. They probably never seen it, and it's funny, but they're like, why would you need a typewriter? I said, we get some obligees send us watermark bond copies that we have to type in there, and we have to do it 3 times. I mean, I think every time one of our clients gets it, there's swear words coming from some corner here. Not again. And I mean, it's unfortunate because it's a very large national GC that we get this, and we've had discussions like, isn't there a better way here? And the answer is no. But even we're looking at this from the obligee owner standpoint. I have prime contractors that are coming to me saying, is there a way we can get just a digital bond from our subs when we're bonding them? And there's some debate on how we go about that. The process and the platforms are not necessarily fully baked there, and so it's, do you take the original and then photocopy it, confirm that it's valid? And it's, we're close, but I don't know if we're all the way there yet. So, but there's traction, I think, across the board. So, pretty soon it's that snowball that, gets bigger and bigger, and it's flying down the hill.
So as 2 515 leaders, where do you see 515 and that great group going and trying to push an agenda like this? Do you see them being actively engaged? I mean, how many want to actually use typewriters anymore? So there's got to be something better. What do you think, Mike?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I think the group we have is in a great position to do that. I use a typewriter right now. I'm sure everybody does, but we want to get rid of it. And technology is going to continue to obviously be a focal point going forward. And I think it's the group we have. What we can really do as a 515 group is communicate that not only to our industry peers, but also communicate that to the obligees, the owners, our clients. I mean, I think you just have to get it out there. You have to continue to push it if you're going to make that dramatic of a change. And all of us being young leaders, technology is something we're much more comfortable with. And I think it's really the generation that's in there right now that's going to make that change.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jase. It's the 515, is by definition is a younger group, but how they embrace technology and how they use it. I don't like dealing with paper bonds. It's just that simple. There's got to be a better way. And it's one of the inefficiencies in our business that I think is I think Jason and I kind of straddle some generations, but there's a better way. And so, that the 515 is embracing it. And it's like, they want to be part of that. How do we take this to the next level? How do we elevate and increase efficiencies in this process, which is, their nature.
Well, that's great. I mean, anytime there's change, you have to have change agents. So it sounds like they're a great group to be change agents.
I think so.
Well, Jase and Mike, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for being on with us and just kind of talking about the changes we've been going through during the pandemic and how we're going to come out the other side of this. It's been great having you both on.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety, brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.
Before we go, we just wanted to say thank you again to Old Republic Surety for their generous support in sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety. For more information on Old Republic Surety, visit www.orsurety.com.